Hello, and welcome to Trekker's Delight. My name is Jason McCammon. I'm your family neighborhood Trekker for the evening. I have with me Roy, and I have with me Danger for the night. Today, we are going to be doing a show called Comrades. This is our second show where we take on a couple episodes of Star Trek and we view the show and we see how it pertains to different comrades on the ship and how they handle the situation. This week we are doing AI as it pertains to specific shows, and the first one we're going to be doing is Voyager Dreadnought. But before we get into it, let's say hi to Roy and Danger, guys. Roy, say hello to the people.
Hey, how you doing, Roy?
You're muted, Roy.
Big Star Trek fan
Oh, there.
since.
All right.
Hey, it's Roy. Yeah, big Star Trek fan since the '70s, since I was a teenager, watching all the shows since then. Happy to be here, and you know, love talking about Star Trek.
All right, thank you, Danger. Want to say hi to the people?
Yeah. Hello, folks. William Danger Newman here. Been a Star Trek fan since the original series premiered in 1966, and just stuck with it ever since. I love the philosophy and love the great storylines and the characters. So, looking forward to talking some AI tonight.
Yeah, me too. I've been watching it since I was a little kid, and probably got more serious about it in the early '90s when TNG came out. But I've watched all of them several times. All right, so let's get into it. The first video we're going to show you is an intro to Star Trek Voyager episode called Dreadnought. So here we go. In the episode called Dreadnought of Star Trek Voyager, we come upon a missile that is intent on destroying a planet. This missile was programmed some time ago by B'Elanna Torres in the Alpha Quadrant. It was a Cardassian missile. She got on there, reprogrammed it to hit a target, hit a Cardassian fuel depot on a planet called Ashlan 5. Somehow the missile got lost in the Badlands and shipped to the Delta Quadrant just like Voyager did. And now B'Elanna tries to get apart the missile to stop it. And she ends up convincing the missile that, hey, you're not in the Alpha Quadrant anymore. You're in the Delta Quadrant. Your target's not here. So stand down. The missile stands down. B'Elanna leaves. And then the missile stands up. Is that a word? And raises its shield so B'Elanna can't get back. So it turns out the missile was lying to her because B'Elanna Torres programmed the missile to attack its target no matter what. Don't stand down for any reason. She told the missile, even if I come over here and tell you to turn off and to stand down, don't do it because it means I was coerced by the Cardassians in some manner. So that's what the missile thought. The missile picked its target based on things like atmospheric conditions, mass, size, things that are comparable to what the planet Ashlan 5 would be, but this isn't it. And so, our forever ensign Kim helps B'Elanna beam through the shields back upon the missile, and the Battle of Wits begins. But not with Mancini and the Dread Pirate Roberts. It is more with B'Elanna Torres and the Dreadnought missile. What it comes down to is the battle of them through the technology. She's trying to talk to it. She's trying to destroy things. It comes down to the end where the missile itself is trying to kill B'Elanna by turning off the life support system. And at the last second, B'Elanna actually destroys the missile right before Harry beams her out of there back onto Voyager and saves millions and millions of people. Kudos to the Voyager crew and B'Elanna. Moral of the story is never get in a battle of wits with a half Klingon, half human when death is on the line.
All right.
All right, so that's the Dreadnought episode. This is one of those episodes where about AI, where the question is not did AI do something wrong, but was the problem with it simply following its programming? And this is important for us because we are moving into this age in our lives, and we really have to start figuring out how we're going to program this AI. And so I guess the problem was her not having foresight, I guess, And she was so intent on just destroying this Cardassian depot. She didn't think about um,
Any
anything else,
contingency planning, right?
any contingency planning. So I guess my question to you guys is just: do you see just that implementation of AI being one of the big problems that like we're going to have as people in our society? Not even pertaining to Star Trek right now, but just like actually us.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, that's the problem when you have a system like Dreadnought, which is designed to be a weapon system. It's going to be used in war. So you're naturally going to have your adversary is going to try to use whatever means possible to defeat that weapon system. So you need to harden it against all kinds of attacks. And, we see with what's going on in the world right now with the Ukraine war, for example, where there's a lot of this hacking going on, trying to disrupt technology, whether it's military technology or even people's access to information. And so the militaries are going to want to harden these defensive missile systems, but at the same time, they're also going to want to make them more intelligent. And so we're getting to the era where, it's like Skynet, right, from the Terminator series, where these systems are going to get very sophisticated very fast. And if we don't have some backdoor means of getting into these things to deactivate them at an appropriate time, we're going to be in some serious doo-doo, I guess.
Right. Roy, you got any thoughts?
Well, I just got to say, B'Elanna is in the hot seat right now. Okay, and she's having a bad hair day on top of that. But besides that, this is definitely another example of humanoids having to reason with a computer.
Right.
Yes.
We saw this in Discovery with the crisis with Zora.
Yep.
It's like, come on. And then it's a battle of wits, Dreadnought and B'Elanna going at it, and
right,
and Dreadnought tricking her. So of course we know who's going to win in the end, but
yeah. But interestingly in this one, it wasn't a case of one of the crew of the ship out logicking the computer and getting it to destroy itself. She actually had to, disable the system so that she could take it out with a phaser.
Yeah.
And destroy it, the hard way, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. She had to get physical with it versus trying to reason with it, because reasoning was out the window. It wasn't going to play.
She was trying to trick it. She kept asking it specific questions to try to like change the target, and the computer just didn't. The computer out-reasoned its own logic.
Yeah.
And just said, no, I have to have a target. You mentioned she's in the hot seat. That just kind of reminds me of how like there was this thing. So between her and Chakotay, when they first figured out that this was her missile, Chakotay jumped up and said, we programmed this missile a long time ago. And that just really kind of shows how like the bond that they have, because Chakotay had nothing to do with programming that missile. He didn't even want her to do it. He was actually pissed off that she did it way back then before they even left Alpha Quadrant.
Right.
So she really felt bad that she let him down back then, and the fact that he stuck up for her in front of Janeway, so Janeway wouldn't get pissed at B'Elanna for it.
Yeah.
It kind of actually really made her want to go fix that problem even more. So I mean, at the end, it was like, oh my God, all these people are about to die. We got to fix it. But at the beginning, it was like, I have to fix this because of my loyalty to Chakotay. And it shows like how that Maquis loyalty even stands the test between, even though that they're Starfleet officers, they still were Maquis.
Yeah, and I don't know that it was necessarily the Maquis bond. In my mind, I would see Chakotay doing that for any member of the crew, just because. Sorry.
Amber Alert.
Amber Alert here in Omaha. Yeah, but I see that's just Chakotay's personality. He's responsible for his crew, and even if they violate an order of his, he is going to, try to take responsibility for that and share the responsibility
for his crew, like his Starfleet crew or his Maquis crew. I feel like
both.
that for the Maquis.
Both.
Okay.
I'm saying both.
Okay.
I'm saying
Okay.
it's his personality to do that. If it was Ensign Kim, for example, I could see him doing that same thing, because I think that's just his personality. He seemed to be perfect in a leadership role because he would do that for his people.
Right.
So,
yeah, man. So I guess we have to go on to the next one. I guess we're good with this. Any more thoughts on the Dreadnought and what should have been done differently?
The only other thing I would add to this is that you mentioned in the intro how the missile was programmed to look for a specific size of planet and atmosphere and density and all of that kind of stuff, but it seems kind of surprising to me that it wouldn't have been programmed with a star map, so that if it wasn't in the right sector, because obviously in an infinite universe, you're going to have the potential for an infinite number of worlds that's going to match a generic size and atmosphere type and all of that kind of stuff. But if you say, okay, well, here are all of these type 1A supernovas to get your bearing, if these aren't in this exact position and the planet's centered in between XYZ coordinates, go inert, because otherwise.
Well, I do know that when it was transported to the Delta Quadrant, I know it had some type of energy surge that messed up some things. I think it knew some of its navigation was messed up, so I think that it probably saw the star map and it didn't exactly match what it had, but it knew it needed its target. So it just assumed, maybe I'm not seeing the map right, maybe I'm not seeing this, but this planet in this vicinity within light years somewhere.
Okay.
So it just blinded itself to everything to find a target.
All right. Yeah, I didn't remember that.
I hear what you're saying, because I would think the same thing.
Been a few months since I've seen the episode, but yeah, okay. Well, I can see that. That makes sense then. But yeah, I just think the important part here is you've got to have some sort of a backdoor in, regardless, because we're human. We change our minds, and machines are only as good as the people that build them. So sooner or later, you're going to have an incident, and you're going to need to take
put in
care
a
of
fail safe.
Exactly.
Like shoot a torpedo in the exhaust port or something.
Right.
All right.
All right, then. So our next episode is commentated by Roy, and it's going to be the Apple for a TOS, the original series episode. All right, let's go ahead and roll that video.
In the Apple, Starfleet wants the Enterprise to make first contact on the Eden-like planet Gamma Trianguli 6. Shortly after the landing party arrives, red shirts start getting killed off by various means. Kirk feels guilty over losing 3 of his men. Spock uses logic to convince him that it was unavoidable and he was just following orders to investigate the planet. Meanwhile, something is putting a drain on the ship's power, causing its orbit to slowly decay. The crew capture a villager named Akuta, who says he is the eyes and voice of his god, Val. Akuta introduces the crew to Val and his people, and we learn there are no children because touching and other displays of affection are forbidden. Spock concludes Val is a machine with rudimentary intelligence, is the source of the ship's power drain, and is fed by Val's people for energy. Spock and McCoy have a debate about Val's relationship with the villagers. McCoy claims they are intelligent humanoids stripped of their rights, stagnant, and only exist to serve Val, while Spock maintains that reciprocity works for them, and it is their choice. McCoy takes a jab at Spock with a comment about how only a Vulcan with a machine-like mind could understand this machine's motivations. A male and female villager spy on Chekhov and a female yeoman being affectionate with each other. This confuses the couple since they are forbidden from this type of touching. Curiosity wins and they start making out. Akuta catches them and reminds them of Val's law. Val feels the strangers are a danger and orders Akuta and his men to kill them. Kirk admits that these people aren't living, they are existing, and they should do something about it. Spock reminds him it would violate the Prime Directive. Kirk is willing to take that chance. Spock is injured by killer lightning sent by Vol. The village men start attacking the crew and kill another red shirt. Spock figures that since the villagers have learned to kill, the damage is done. Kirk keeps the villagers from feeding Vol in the hopes of weakening it. Scotty fires phasers on Vol to weaken it even further. It works. Vol is dead. The ship is free. Kirk leaves the villagers with a speech to let them know they are free to choose their own destiny and start families. Back on the ship, Spock and McCoy continue the argument about the decision they made to interfere with the villagers. Spock compares their interference to the biblical apple which drove Adam and Eve out of paradise. Kirk and McCoy point out that there is a crew member aboard who slightly resembles Satan.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting that they mentioned that Satan thing, since that was all in the newspaper at the time when Star Trek came out. When people were saying, when people were against Star Trek, saying, "Oh, and look at this
satanic character,
Satan-looking character." It was interesting that they would put that in the show. Anyway, all right, Roy, it's your show. Go ahead and start it off on how you.
So yeah, this is another one of those examples of artificial intelligence being a god, just like we talked last time about Return of the Archons, you know. And of course, Kirk and the gang have to go in there and put a stop to all that and make everything right. Sure, it goes against the Prime Directive, supposedly, but they were told by Starfleet to go in and make first contact. So what do you do? So there's a lot of dynamics going on. You got the stuff going on between Chekhov and the yeoman, where he can't keep his hands off of her, and the tete-a-tetes between McCoy and Spock. They're like at each other, and they try to rope Kirk into the discussion. It's like, come on, take my side, that kind of thing. Finally, Kirk, of course, says, "Yeah, Bones, you're right. They're not really living, so we should do something about it." And of course, Mr. Logic has to jump in and says, "Well, I don't think Starfleet's going to see it that way, and you're still going to get in some hot water for, busting the Prime Directive." So a lot of different, comrades focused relationship of things going on with some of the crew.
Well, I don't think the Prime Directive applies, since both in this show and Return of the Archons, since the ship was in jeopardy itself, so they had to save the ship, right? I mean,
Right.
Although if somebody's going to die, you don't necessarily break the Prime Directive because somebody gets sick in an indigenous village. But I think the fact that they were attacked holds some type of precedence over what they can and cannot do down there.
Right.
Otherwise, yeah, I mean, are these people actually being harmed in any way? Or are they
Well, they're
just
slaves.
are they?
Thought of them as slaves, just slaves to this, having to feed this Vol, God all the time. And they weren't even living. It was just an existence for them. They couldn't have sex, so who wants to live in a world without that, right?
Right. And they mentioned that, right? Doesn't McCoy, somebody say, well, some paradise? Or
although it wasn't like they missed it. That wasn't like they missed sex, because they didn't even know what it was.
Well,
true.
There was
Although
that one
you would
couple,
have to think at some point they're going through adolescence, and changes are going to happen, and the biology there is just going to force you to start trying some things.
Well, no, they don't have kids. They don't have kids. They just, if somebody dies, they get replaced somehow. There's no children. There's no adolescents.
Yeah, but I mean, I think wasn't it the case where when they needed children, then Vol would instruct them how to.
Yeah, is that what they said? They would.
Yeah.
No,
Vol
they
would
said
instruct them.
they said if they did. So
Right.
I don't think it happened.
Not very often because Vol kept them perfectly healthy. But if there was an accident, for example, maybe a dead tree fell over and killed somebody, then Vol would instruct them how to procreate. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then supposedly erase their memory afterwards, because once they've taken a bite of that apple, I don't think you're going to stop it.
Yeah, they'd be like, "Wow, that was fun."
Yeah.
Keep in mind, it was keep in mind the apple was never mentioned in Genesis. Just saying.
Right.
Right. It was a fruit. It was a fruit.
It was a fruit, but somehow it turned into an apple for everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, so here's the question for everybody, I think. Then let's say you've got this planet, this Vol intelligence, and their only task that they have to do is just periodically feed this thing to keep it alive, the computer. And in return, the computer gives them perfect health. Now, if it had also allowed them to procreate, have intimate relationships, and live life in an idyllic setting, would that have, do you think, prevented Kirk from taking action and destroying the machine? Assuming the machine didn't attack the ship.
Right, but the machine attacked the ship, that was one thing. But
so
I mean, if
you
it
take
just
out
gave them
that
stuff.
Yeah, if you take out that part, would Kirk have been justified in turning off the machine that was basically shepherding the flock of those primitive people?
The thing is, you're speculating about something that Vol would think never would happen, because once you give them complete freedom, sooner or later, people are going to start asking questions about things. It's like North Korea. Like,
right.
It's really with any totalitarian regime. Like,
right.
Sooner or later, somebody's going to actually question what Vol is, and if they need him, if they can do stuff themselves and get rid of Vol. So that's why something in that position would stay in that position by not giving that freedom. But the people are relatively happy, right? And that they're slaves, but they're not being brutalized.
So you think it's akin to the whole, let's say, pandemic mask debate, where somebody's going to say, you have no right to force me to be healthy, Vol. I want to live my life. And
it is.
Right?
It is.
Okay.
You have no right to do that.
Well, there was that one couple, that were spying on Chekhov and the yeoman,
kissing,
being affectionate with each other. So that they had already been a couple, and they were keeping it a secret. By the way, that actor, of course, played Starsky and Hutch later.
Oh, really?
Played both of them?
That's a whole trivia thing. No,
nice,
just
the
trivia.
I didn't know
dude
that.
of the couple. Yeah, he was one of the Starsky and Hutch guys. I can't remember which one. But so they were already probably at it and sneaking around and touching and stuff, or at least wanting to.
Behind Vol's back.
But they knew that Vol was all seeing and all knowing, so they just had to kind of keep it repressed.
Keep it on
when
the
they
DL.
saw Chekhov and Marta going at it, they thought, "Wow, looks like fun." So I don't think that they were really happy, and they probably weren't the only couple that was, thinking along those lines. Or there might have been other couples that were also curious about that whole touching thing. Why is it a taboo?
Yeah.
Right. It just is.
And of course, Kirk, being the horn dog that he is like, these people need to get laid. Sorry, not this family show, but he was like, we're gonna get rid of this Vol guy so these people can have some fun.
Now
that's pretty much what he told them in the speech. He told them that in the speech before he left. He's like, well, Vol is dead, so have fun, make your own families, and bless you.
Then the whole village gets to clap and don't know what to do. I think what would be interesting for a lot would be to have Star Trek shorts that shows what happened after they left this planet, because they do a lot of episodes that's all through the various series where they do something and then they leave the planet, and then we're just like, okay, now what?
There's only been one. I think it was Wrath of Khan was the only one where we got to go back.
But that was an accident.
Wrath of Khan.
Was an accident.
Only because they love Ricardo Montalban.
That was an accident, though. They didn't even mean to go back. He should have checked back on him. You just drop some people off on the planet and don't even. Starfleet should have checked on them. Like, okay, these are prisoners here. We got to check on them.
Yeah, they could do a whole series on where are they now, kind of thing. I'm sure they can make up some stuff. Where are they now?
Maybe they'll do that in Strange New Worlds.
when they run out of things to after.
Although actually they can't go back to stuff that Kirk went to because this is before Kirk's time on the ship.
Yeah.
The Strange New World have to be all new stories, but
Right,
it would have been
right.
nice to see him go back and tell. But yeah, so this Vol thing was created 10,000 years ago. So obviously by some sophisticated culture, right? Because it's created this machine that can keep everybody healthy. It's all knowing, all seeing. It can, it's powerful enough to pull the Enterprise out of orbit, right? So a fairly sophisticated machine, certainly well beyond our technology today. But then somehow, after the machine is created, there's some sort of primitive dragon's face on the side of a mountain where they have to dump food in to feed it food, and they're all like savages. How did they regress that far? Did the machine? Yeah, did the machine force them to regress? And as that was happening, wouldn't you be saying, "Hey, I used to have a nice, soft, comfortable bed in a beautiful high rise looking out over the ocean, and now I'm living in a grass hut on a beach"?
Well, it could easily be some type of war or something, I suppose. But
wouldn't a Vol have prevented that?
He may not have been so Volish at the time.
So Volish. Oh. I love that.
Well, they threw in some fake plants. They threw in a bunch of fake plants and some fake grass, astroturf in there, and they called it paradise. And just said, "Hey, let's just assume these people are really happy."
How many times do you have to get shot by plants before you decide to leave?
Oh, I know the death, like the lightning.
I'm sure this was a one-time thing.
And the exploding rocks.
Right.
Yeah. Every episode.
I love that.
Every episode should start with them beaming down, and then a guy in a red shirt saying, "Okay, nothing bad could possibly happen in this place."
We lost 4 red shirts in this episode.
Here's the other question. They're going here to make first contact, but this is, from all appearances, when they get there, not a warp capable civilization.
Correct.
Right? So is this before the whole, because it seemed to me that by the time, by this time period, we should at least have some first contact rules in place. Although, maybe we saw that in Next Gen, obviously, where they had, they'd observed civilization for a while.
They solidified what the Prime Directive was. This is season 2, early in season 2.
Right.
So where Prime Directive was just still being kind of hashed out what it was. Right. But eventually, Prime Directive was, you will die before you give yourself
change
away.
A culture.
It became that kind of thing where that was above anything, even if it meant
But the entire ship, should the entire ship die?
Yeah. It used to be. It was that important. Eventually, not in TOS, but later, like in TNG.
All right, guys. This was a great talk. This actually this episode was a lot like Return of the Archons, just from top to bottom.
I think so.
Kind of give both the same messages, but this is a great show, and it was nice getting with you guys again.
Yeah,
and I look
nice
forward
talking to you and Roy.
Seeing you on the next episode. Thanks for stopping by and watching this. We really appreciate it, and we will see you next time on Trekker's Delight, Comrades.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.